What's going on, guys? Here for the FedEx Cup St. Jude or FedEx St. Jude Championship to start the FedEx Cup playoffs. Breaking it down from a DFS perspective here. Have the sheet shared with you guys so you can see it here. We're going to go over a little bit about what I'm looking for this week. Top plays, a few in each range, and then we're going to get into some Saber Sim and look at some building strategies for lineup construction, see what that's popping out with some projections, and we'll go from there. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Before I get into the course and some plays, wanted to let you guys know about our partnership with Ship It Nation. I have a couple links down in the description of the video that gives you direct access to use code Jaeger15 and get 15% off of a monthly, annual subscription, whatever you choose there. Also get you a free week trial to try them out. Can cancel before the week is up if you don't want to stay, but I think they have a lot of things that complement well with our product over here at Jaeger Bombs, and take our info that we have here, move it over there and just apply the two together. I think that would be a really good strategy for a process. They have a little more written content. They do have an optimizer that you have the option to include or not include. So be sure to check them out. We'll hop right in and get into the course here. Out in Memphis, we've got, again, the first round of the playoffs. They've played here for years. If you think about what plays well at this course, and here are the this was a WGC event before it started being the playoffs a couple years ago. If you look at the leaderboard, really you're just looking at really good iron players all over the board. And we saw it last year, and something that I look for in these playoffs every year that I've played DFS is finding the hot guy that comes in good form and can roll it through the playoffs, because that's what we tend to see do well throughout here. Some guys check out now. They've either made the top 70, they don't think they can make the top 50 or the top 30, and they just kind of check out. But you've also got the other end of guys that come in like Lucas Glover did last year, winning at the Wyndham to get in, and then he wins the first playoff event and just went on a massive heater. So you can see that as well. So we want the guys that are engaged, that are ready to go, with the eyes towards East Lake, of course. Again, last year's winner was Glover, the year before that. And you're going to see a commonality here. Glover, great iron player. Will Zalatoris, great iron player when he's on. Answer, solid. He was in a playoff with Decky and Sam Burns in that year, the last one of the WGC. JT in 20, and then BK in 2019 for that DJ Burger. So really good mid-iron type guys. You're going to want to find the fairway here so you can attack the greens. So I'm looking for a little more accuracy over distance. Obviously, distance is going to help you out if you're in the rough at 130. It's kind of something we say a lot of times. Distance will help, but I would prefer to have the accuracy here, because you're in the rough 130, you're better off than a shorter hitter in the rough at 165. But if guys can pepper fairways, come to think of a guy like Brian Harmon as this type of player that can get in the fairway in a position to attack these greens, maybe a Tom Kim, something like that. We'll get into some of those plays specifically, but that's kind of what I'm looking for in terms of a player type this week. Maybe Scotty Scheffler prototype, which he's, of course, great at every course, it seems. So that's where we'll start, right at the top of pricing. And for me, this is something that a lot of this year with Scotty, and the dominance that he's had, it makes these kind of weeks with him tough for me, because I've went both ways, where I've went all in on Scotty for the week, and just tried to fill in around him, and haven't had a lot of success, even though he plays really well. And I've also had it happen kind of the opposite, where he still wins. I don't play him, and I have a more balanced team and still have a very good week as well. So I get the argument either way. I don't think there's a set answer of you have to play Scotty Scheffler. I think it's how do you want to build out the rest of your pool. When you get down in the mid and low range, are there guys that you like that it makes it easy to get to Scotty? Because if you do, and it is, then yeah, I would jam him into a bunch of my lineups. He's, of course, player of the year more than likely. Xander with the two. It's crazy to think a guy who wins 2 majors is probably not going to be the PGA Tour player of the year. But really, it's just both of their worlds, and we're just around at this point with Scotty and Xander. Like those guys, if I'm paying all the way up, I have to lean towards Scotty. I know it's $1,000 discount though, so you could get potentially from a 6,500 to a 7,500, or 7,500 guy to an 8,500 with that discount. So, I don't see a problem with it. Deciphering these guys at the top is always going to be hard. Rory McIlroy might be slightly less owned at 11-1, still at over 11K. And, the other 2 guys are right now playing better than him, but he's not playing bad at all. Then you've got a guy who probably will get really overlooked this week as far as ownership in the top range is Oberg, and 10-2, but he's playing some really good golf. Now, a couple starts ago, he missed the cut at the Open, was on the wrong side of that draw, I believe. Other than that, his iron game has been solid as it has all year. He's a great driver of the golf ball, puts it in play. Prototype of what you're looking for anywhere, but he could be solid if you want to get it a little different at the top. Colin Morikawa will probably be popular, but if I'm not going to this 11K and above range, starting a team with Colin Cantlay would be a very interesting build setup for me. Colin, you think of everything I said that I want in a golfer this week, and he fits pretty much everything. You've got accurate driver of the golf ball, great iron player. He's one of the best in the world when he's on, and he's playing really good golf right now. Very consistent. You got to think, that's the type of thing that's going to play in the playoffs here. So he's one of the guys that I like to carry this form into the playoffs and ride that. Fleetwood has been solid. He's played well here, including a 3rd last year to start the playoffs. I think he's in play, coming off of a 2nd at the Olympics. And then you've got Cantlay, who 2nd here a year ago playing. He's really turned it around. Really started at the U.S. Open, I guess. Turned things around and is playing really good. And I think he has a strong playoff run in here. Hideki Matsuyama is a guy that I was on quite a bit earlier. I know there's a lot of stuff circulating with some deal. I don't know the full story that happened with his caddy. Decky, I think, is in play. He's traditionally the type of player that you want here as well. He was 2nd here in 2021, coming off of a 3rd place finish for bronze at the Olympics on a not similar type golf course, but similar type player that you're looking for here. Accurate iron player, just like we were over in France. So I like him quite a bit here at 9,300. That really does it for me in 9K and above. And if I had to rank them currently, I'm going Colin, Cantlay. Take your pick up top. I think, I don't see enough ownership discrepancy in what I'm looking at right now to get down to Rory over Scotty and Xander. So I'm probably going to take my pick between those 2. And if I'm playing multiple lineups, like last week I played 10. If I'm doing so again, I might get, some of each of Scotty and Xander and skip over Rory if the ownership discount isn't massive. And then after that would be Decky. Moving on into kind of the mid-range here, you got Tom Kim, who comes off the heartbreak of the Sunday where he didn't get the medal at the Olympics. Still played really well, continued a strong run. He wasn't, I I think it was the Open again. He was on the wrong side of the draw. Again, this is a guy that's playing really good with his irons, and I think carries it into these playoffs and could culminate with a win here in one of these events. Tony Finau is a guy who, again, is playing really, really good golf, great with his irons recently. One of the best ball strikers in the field, the way that he rates out. So I have a lot of interest in him. I don't know that he's going to be that popular. It's looking like he's going to come in around 10% or so, which is the lowest in this range until you get down into the low eights, which they're all kind of right in that bubble. But of the top 8K range, he's slightly lower than Tom Kim. Will probably definitely be lower than Henley and Sung Jae. So Finau, I think, is a solid option here. Dropping down a little more, you've got Sam Burns at 83, playing pretty good golf right now. He's kind of steadied things out. I think that all kind of started at the U.S. Open, too, after he was kind of trending the other direction. Second here in 21, so good history at the course. Aaron Rai won last week, and he's, the type of guy that could be, and I know we just had it happen here last year with Glover, but he's the type of guy that could do exactly what Glover did a year ago, win at the Wyndham, win here, playing really, really well with his irons, of course, winning last week. But even before that, he was playing really well. So I think he'll be somewhat popular, even coming off a win, but I think he's in play for sure. Shane Lowry rates out really well from a stats perspective. Good course type for him. I think he is in play at 8K. And then dropping down into the value range, Brian Harman was a little disappointing for me last week. Just couldn't ever really get it together, get it going. And, 7,600, the price tag's just completely different from what you need from him this week versus last week. So I really like that price tag for him. He's an accurate driver of the golf ball, very solid mid-iron player, and, third here in 22, solid history at this course. So I like Harman to bounce back, and I think, 7,600, I think he's very in play. Davis Thompson has been playing really good golf. He won a few weeks back, which was a culmination of a very strong form run. He was 12th last week at Sedgefield. So I think he could continue that there. When I dug into his stats a little deeper, he didn't do great with his irons last week, which could, and he still had a very solid finish. So let me see what that was exactly so I don't misquote something. He's been great off the tee pretty much all year. He was kind of flat with his irons, which was better than what he had been at the Open and the Scottish, which I'm willing to give him a pass on that. Maybe not as familiar with links golf over there. And when he was here in the U.S., 9th at the U.S. Open, 2nd at Rocket Mortgage before winning at John Deere. So I think he'll be somewhat popular, but the odds like him, stats like him, I think I'll end up going to some Davis Thompson. And then a guy that I really have a lot of interest in, a guy who burned, myself included, and a lot of people last week, was Siwoo Kim, who was much higher priced at a course that he loved last week and just played horrific, really. But a lot of it was around the greens. If you pull up his stats from just last week, you're going to see that he gained almost a stroke off the tee, lost a quarter of a stroke through 2 rounds on approach, and then, lost 2 strokes putting, lost over half a stroke around the green. So Siwoo, I think, can bounce back here, and he's been solid before that. He, very strong with his irons over the last few. Hasn't popped for a big finish, but he's been in the mid-teens, into the 20s. Now he's 7,200, and I think he could bounce back and really provide a value for his price tag this week. And maybe we get a little bit of an ownership discount with what he did last week to people. Alex Noren is another guy who is playing some good golf. I think he's in play at 7,200. Max Grazerman down into the 6Ks. Should have won last week, back-to-back runner-up finishes. The only worry with him is how does that affect him coming off of that type of finish. He's playing some really, really good golf right now. So I don't have a ton of worry. Again, it's the type of guy that you want to ride things like this. Again, that is just my only concern would be, how does he respond to what happened to him on Sunday? And he hasn't really been in that situation a whole lot. So maybe he just bounces right back and continues to play some good golf. Hoagie is traditionally an iron player. He's not playing that great right now, but makes sense as far as the fit for him. Cam Davis, 6th here a year ago, 13th in 2022 in both of the playoff events here. I think he could bounce back after a not so good outing. Let me see what his stats looked like last week. Just a really bad couple of days for him. So maybe just the weirdness of the week. He'll be able to bounce back. He, of course, won at the end of June at the Rocket Mortgage. 26th at the Scottish, 19th at the 3M, gaining quite a few strokes, ball striking before just a really bad couple days. So I think he's in play to get back to a little flop lag spot here. Eric Cole, I think, is an option. 31st here a year ago, playing some good golf. And any time that I'm on an accuracy type course, iron course, mid-iron course, I really like him coming off of a 7th. So Eric Cole in play for sure. Ben Griffin is popping quite a bit, maybe the most of anybody for me down here in this range. Played well last week. I think he's definitely in play at 6,600. And then the last guy that I'll mention before we hop over to Saber Sim is Austin Eckroat, a guy that I've played quite a bit this year. I played him even in some majors, and he didn't really work out a whole lot for me. But coming off of a 6 last week, this is the type of place that you want Austin Eckroat. He's a great iron player, has the upside to be one of the best, on tour with his irons from what I can gather as hearing people talk that have been close to him over the years. And, if you look at off the tee over his last 5 events, he's been very, very good. Miscut at the 3M, not so good overseas. Although, he just comes right back over here in Greensboro and gains a stroke per round ball striking. So feel pretty good about Eckroat down there at 6,300. Again, no cut event this week. You're going to get 4 rounds out of everybody. So I definitely like Eckroat at 63. He rates out really well in a metric that we've added to the sheet last year. Some of you may not be familiar with it, the DK value column, which looks at odds on Pinnacle Sportsbook and cross-references those against DK price and just kind of sees where does somebody rank. Does somebody rank better, or the sportsbook's looking at them more favorably than DK price? So 6,300 for 140 to 1 there, that gives you quite a big discrepancy. Where Eckroat is ranked 44th in odds, he's 59th in DK price. So that gives him the second best rating in the field this week there. And, so really like him. So let's switch over to Saber Sim, and I'll kind of just quickly show you my process here and, just show you kind of what I'm looking at. In golf, it's a little bit different. Some other sports, I kind of let the optimizer do a lot of the work for me. I'll give it a few inputs of personal thoughts, and then, I'll let it run and then tweak after that. Here, I like to make my pool of however many guys, depending on how many lineups I'm playing. And then I'll, let it run from my pool. And I'll pick the best lineups out of that I either like or that it likes and go from there. So Scotty and Xander, I would leave them in the pool. And this is based on 10 or 20 lineups. So I'm not going to have a very big pool at all. I like Decky, Tom Kim, and Finau. And maybe I go back and start cutting some of these guys. But I like to do it from this way of get rid of everybody and start adding back instead of trying to just trim a few guys off. Aaron Rye, I don't know. Lowry seems okay. I don't know that I'm enthused about that. Harmon, definitely in the pool. Connors rates out really well. The price tag seems a little bit high for me, but I get it. Davis Thompson, Siwoo Kim, who I really like. And then maybe I'll go back and bump some of these guys. Like I would want Siwoo over Alex Noren, for example, this week. So I do want to bump him up to where the projection is slightly higher than them being almost identical. Grazerman, let's see here. I'll probably miss somebody and end up having to go back later. Cam Davis, Eric Cole, Ben Griffin, Austin Eckroat. I think that pretty much gets who I would want in the pool, that is. Just double checking if I missed anybody here that I really liked. Burns would be kind of on the periphery. So let's run it there. I think I feel pretty good about that. And let's see what types of builds. I'll use this to really see, all right, am I getting a lot of Stars and Scrubs build? Is it jamming Scotty Morikawa, or is it skipping Morikawa or skipping Scheffler a lot and just going a little more balanced? So what happened here with the top 150 teams? We have exposure in the top range. We kind of got almost identical numbers of Scotty and Xander. A lot of Morikawa. Didn't get a whole lot of Cantlay. So if I want him, I would need to bump his projection a little bit. Got some Decky, Tom Kim, Finau. Got a lot more Lowry than I would have expected. Harmon, Davis Thompson. Got a lot of Siwoo. Like to see that. A lot of Grazerman, a lot of Cam Davis, a lot of Griffin, a lot of Eckroat, because I didn't have any in the pool down there, which is fine. I'm good with that. I would rather get the cheap guys right and spread at the top where all those guys could win. If I zoom into the top 20 teams, you're looking at it. It cut out a lot of the mid-range guys and just jammed in. Looks like it gave me all either Scotty Morikawa or Xander Morikawa teams. So it got rid of a lot of the mid-range. It kept some Lowry, Harmon, but then it probably jammed down here. So jammed Siwoo, a lot of Grazerman, a lot of Cam Davis, a lot of all those guys at the bottom. So that's interesting. And just to look at the specific builds, Scotty Morikawa, and then just a bunch of values. That's interesting to me. That's not a traditional way that I build lineups a whole lot. But the fact that it is jamming that in the top 20 teams sorted by Sabre score is interesting. Siwoo, Grazerman, Davis, Griffin with the two studs. Let's see here. Schauffele, this is where we got the $1,000 savings, and it bumped up into that mid-range to Lowry with the cheap guys. Scheffler, Morikawa, Harmon, Grazerman, Eckroat, Davis. That's an interesting one. So it's really like in the 3 6K options. And hey, I mean they're getting all of the. I really like that team. They're getting all 4 rounds, but Xander, Morikawa with probably my 2 favorite 7K guys, Harmon and Siwoo, and then Grazerman and Cam Davis down at the bottom. That's interesting for sure. Little flop lag team there with Cam Davis and Siwoo, and even Harmon for me to an extent. Scheffler, Morikawa, Noren, Grazerman, Cole, Griffin. So just to kind of see there what it's given us, I think that's an interesting look. That's all I've got this week. Again, I'll have my rankings and cores. Let me show you that before we head out. I will have this every week on Wednesday nights. rankings 9K and above, mid-range, and then below 7,400. I have rankings in each tier, and then cores for full tourney, and then each of the showdowns, all on the sheet. We'll have the sheet updated throughout the 4 rounds after tomorrow starts. Good luck to everybody this week. Let's have a strong run to East Lake and finish out the season strong. Good luck.